Welcome to the Tamworth FC Social, a podcast all about Tamworth Football Club. I'm Jonathan and I'm with Brett and Graham to chat about the FA Cup first round draw and much more. So then, Graham, it is Huddersfield at home in the first round. One of the ties of the round for you?
Yeah, I would say so. We were just discussing off air some of the other ties that are out there. We mentioned about Chesham against Lincoln City, and that's got the biggest gap in the pyramid. So I guess that's one of the more noticeable ones. And Sutton United versus Birmingham, especially with all the attention they're getting at the moment, the kind of money they're spending in League One, quite a decent tie. I'd say ours is probably one of those that the TV cameras would look at and say there's a potential shock there. Huddersfield coming down to the Lamb on the 3G pitch presents probably quite a tricky opportunity for them. So I think it's a great draw. When it came out, I don't think we could have got too much better unless we'd have got a Blues or Wrexham, depending on your opinions on who you'd want. I think it's a great draw. I mean, Huddersfield were in the Championship last season. They were in the Premier League not that, long ago. So for me, it's a great draw. I know a few Huddersfield Town fans as well, so adds a bit of extra spice in it for me personally. And I think speaking to them, they're quite interested in coming down to the Lamb because it's a new ground, which in a way surprises me pleasantly. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic draw for the Tamworth Football Club. It's a shame that they don't do replays anymore because it would have been nice even if we got a draw, we go back up there. But I'd imagine it's going to be a full house at the Lamb. Yeah, we'll get, even if we don't get on television live, we'll get plenty of exposure regionally and all that, and it will bring in some cash to the club. And you never know, we might get a result, and yeah, and the headlines will be there. But yeah, all in all, I'm really pleased with that.
I'd argue, Brett, possibly one of the biggest clubs in that first round draw when you think historically what they did in the 1920s, winning league titles, won the FA Cup as well. But then also, like Graham says, they were a Premier League team not so long ago.
Yeah, I think if you take out Blues and maybe Charlton, but probably not for history, I think probably like the bigger ones up there. I was really pleased with the draw when it came out. We've ended up with uh, one of the best teams that we could have got. In terms of whether it's the tie of the round, there's obviously quite a lot of local ties that have been drawn out. You've got Western Superman, Bristol Rovers, Kettering, Northampton. That's going to be a great occasion for them. Be interesting to see what they choose for the TV. But that'll have national interest as well. Huddersfield are a big club where people will remember them 5 or 6 years ago in the Premier League. I think they'll bring a good following. All the jobs have already started. I was looking at some stuff on Twitter earlier on of a picture of like a bus shelter stand with a Tamworth badge photoshopped over it, saying at least there's cover at the Tamworth away end. Saying, oh well, when we sell out their away end, they'll probably end up having to give us more home tickets. All the kind of big club nonsense that you get when you get to this level. It's just a great occasion for an upset. I just think it is in a lot of ways very much advantage Tamworth.
Narrow pitch, close to the fans. I think it could be a bit of a culture shock for them, for some of those players that won't have played at grounds like that before, especially some of their younger players. So I think that's where we have the advantage. It's just that all those comforts that they're used to, they won't be getting any of that, and they'll get the full sort of the full round of abuse from the shed as well. So that's where we can have an advantage as well as like the 3G pitch, which is an advantage to us in the league anyway, I think. So yeah, it's just all that fun and games really. I think that we can try and use as an advantage.
Well, of course, Tamworth made it to the first round courtesy of that home victory over Macclesfield 4-2. That game featured a touching tribute to former Tamworth player George Baldock, who recently passed away at age 31. Our thoughts, of course, are with his friends and family. Onto the game itself, we did think there would be a lot of goals, didn't we, Graham? And we were right.
Yeah, we do quite well in this old predictions thing, don't we? Yeah, I just had a bit of a feeling about it. I thought it'd be quite competitive. You could see that Macclesfield are quite good from an attacking point of view, but they obviously leave a lot of gaps wide open. So did quite well to exploit that, and kind of the usual thing where we've seen teams that come to Lamb and try and play pretty football and pass it out from the back and just catch them out because we're just savvy to it, I think. So it was a good game, plenty of goals, typical good FA Cup tie, to be perfectly honest.
Made me chuckle listening to Robbie Savage's post-match interview. He was very keen to make it clear he thought Macclesfield were the better team. I sort of feel like we've heard this before from, in the inverted commas, the bigger teams who Tamworth play and beat.
I would have preferred to him to have come out and said, well, we learned a lesson today about how teams can set up and play a particular brand of football very well because it's a unique way that we do play, and they would have learned loads from that. So why not just turn around and say, I don't think we defended very well. They did what they're very good at, very efficiently, and we weren't able to stop them from doing that. They didn't need to come out saying that he thought that they played better than what we did. It's irrelevant. What matters is the results, and that's why we are mid-table in the National League, because we probably don't always play that well, but what we do is we win games and we find a way to dig in deep and frustrate teams.
Theoretically, they might be a more well-supported club, which they probably are, just from where they've been in the past. But right now, we're 2 leagues above them. So, and we proved that on Saturday.
Did feel like a really big moment, Tamworth reaching the first round, because it, relatively speaking, in recent history, it's quite a rarity. In Tamworth's history as a whole, I make it only the 15th time Tamworth have reached the FA Cup first round. So it's a moment to treasure, I'd say, Graham.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, I was surprised when I heard the stat that we'd not been in the first round since 2013-14 season. It's such a great competition for non-league clubs, and we've had some great ties along the years. So it's just, yeah, it's good to be back in the first round again. It kind of surprises me, actually, only 15 times, but I suppose pre-2000s, it's probably only a handful of times that we were in the first round. So when you think about it, it probably does make sense. But yeah, no, it's good. It's just good to be amongst it again. And obviously, we only have to go through one round this time, which makes it easier. But but we've obviously earned it because of where we're at again in the National League.
Okay, here's one for you then, Graham. How many of the 15 teams do you think you can name that we played in the first round of the FA Cup? I think I can do 8. Torquay.
Is this first round?
Yeah.
Exeter City?
Gillingham.
Bury?
Burn Albion.
Actually, I'm struggling a bit here. Oh, Gateshead?
I think that was round 2.
I feel like there's a few biggies you've missed.
There's Bournemouth.
Rochdale?
Blackpool. You went to that, didn't you, Graham?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, Blackpool. Yeah, that was a good one. Cheltenham Town?
Crewe.
Shall I go through the list as I see it and can see if there's any big ones either of you clock that you haven't said? This is going from like the first season that Tamworth got to the first round, which was 66, 67, and then chronologically from there. So Gillingham, which I think you said. Torquay, which you definitely said. York. Did either of you say York?
No, I didn't even know that.
Colchester United. This one, I don't think either of you said. Whitley Bay in 1991. And it was...
of course I don't remember that.
Tamworth lost 6-4. So I feel like...
Good game.
Yeah,
I've seen clips of that. There's clips of that on YouTube.
Exeter, which you definitely said. Bury, which you definitely said. Rochdale, which you definitely said. Blackpool, Bournemouth, which you said, Burton Albion, which you said, Crewe, which you said, Hinkley United. I can't remember if you said that. And then most recently, Cheltenham Town in 2013. Pretty good run there from both of you. You got the vast majority of those. This is our first episode since the Halifax and Gateshead matches. Brett, the Gateshead game, the best result of the season so far, surely.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I think absolutely the right time to play him as well in biblical rain. I think within literally 2 minutes, every player was skin tight, drenched. And I think we took the opportunity to take the game to Gateshead. Found an answer after the disappointing result against Halifax.
What do you think, Graham? It feels, I was slightly worried after the Halifax game, like, would that dent the confidence a little bit? But I mean, you can't really get any better, can you, than responding with a win against one of the best teams in the division?
Yeah, I suppose I felt similar in the fact that it was that going to completely dent us and we were going to really, really struggle. Yeah, I didn't really go. I did kind of came into that game thinking, well, if we get a draw out of it, then that would be a huge bonus. So we'd done well to get a win, and certainly sounded like we deserved it. From listening in on the radio, I think Gateshead had a lot of possession, but we did what we do well, and pressed them from the front and scored a couple of decent goals as well. So I thought it was interesting actually when we obviously spoke to Tom Tonks last week, and he said that one of the things that the Tamworth team don't mind doing is letting the opposition have the ball because they can still be in control of the game. And I think that's probably justifies what happened the other night with Gateshead. They've obviously had a lot of the ball, but we're just effective when we get it. But that's a very big win. I mean, you hear a lot of plaudits of how Gateshead go about playing their football and their style. So for us to get a result, I'd say it's probably our best of the season based on where they are in the league and what was at stake for them in terms of if they did win the game.
I think there were some great individual performances on Tuesday, including Tom Tonks, man of the match. He played probably the best I've seen him playing a Tamworth shirt. And it's all because he came on the podcast and spoke to us. He's clearly that inspired. He wanted to come out and represent the boys on the pod.
Let that be a message to the rest of the squad. If anyone's listening, come on the podcast and have a sterling game afterwards. The goals Tamworth scored, I feel like it was, the first one was maybe sort of applying a bit of pressure, maybe, and it sort of was that ball down the left-hand side, wasn't it? And you probably only score that goal because of, harrying the Gateshead defender. And then the goal that Creaney scored, I just thought that was like sort of cutting edge football. It was like a really quick move.
Yeah, I mean that first goal, I feel like we've scored a lot of goals like that in the last 2 seasons, picking up on basically mistakes that the defence are making or just harrying them along. They've got good fitness and they're willing to press right high up. And when we're in that position, we play like that at home. We are very, very good. So I'd say that was almost like a typical Tamworth goal, really, and seen Shakuna get on the end of those a couple of times. And the second goal was just a great goal, really, really well worked. But again, almost like a typical Tamworth goal in terms of the fact that it was a cross in, and Creaney's on the end of it, doing what he does best. So yeah. All in all, really, really pleasing evening with some good goals and hopefully more to come for Saturday.
Even like where Shakuna, was to pick up the ball for his goal, I just thought that's such intelligent, positional sense. And when you've got Creaney providing the assist, you need your sort of attacking midfielder to kind of, have that nous about them as well, which is just really impressive.
He still had a lot to do, I thought, to score that goal. It wasn't on a plate for him. Some people might have thought it was just on how it got there, but there was still a lot to do there, and he was quite far out, just to kind of get a tap in. So it was a really good finish.
Just a quick word on the Halifax game. You were there as well, weren't you, Brett? Kind of strange game, wasn't it? Going 2-0 up and then a fairly late goal from Halifax to lose the match.
Yeah, it's a disappointing way to have lost. But again, I actually think people after that game were really quite harsh. We had two big losses to that game, within half an hour. Milnes and Morrison are out. We were already down to the bare bones going into that game. I don't really know what else, to be honest, we could have done. We had a good chance to go and take a third, which we didn't take. There was a couple of silly mistakes at the back, but it's pressure. It's pressure that comes from the fact that you've got a really weakened team out there. So it was disappointing. It was great for me. I was a couple of minutes late for the game. It was great to walk straight into a Hayden Hollis goal as soon as I got to my seat. So that was exciting. And Halifax didn't look that great in the first half, I didn't think. For a team that finished in the playoffs last season, we let them play their game and we put pressure on them and we more than matched them. And we were a nightmare for them in the first half.
I'm about to say something I always sort of hate when other people say, but if you're going to a team like Halifax away and coming away like really disappointed not to have got anything, I think that's in the grand scheme of things a really good sign. And like you say, Brett, there were chances for Tamworth to score more goals. Like there was a one-on-one that wasn't taken. There was a chance really near the end where it was kind of hooked over the bar as well. But I mean, like we've already said, the perfect response really with the Gateshead result. We'll leave it there for this episode of the Tamworth FC Social podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Keep an eye out for a Yeovil and Woking preview show from us. That'll be out in the next few days. If you enjoy the podcast, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and give this episode a like. It really helps us grow our audience. Until next time, goodbye.